The Bills are still certainly the favorites in the AFC East, but they're definitely going to have some competition, and that's most notably going to come from the Miami Dolphins, who last year went a surprising 10-6, a really impressive 10-6. Still missed the playoffs though narrowly. They got a great young coach in Brian Flores, great defensive coach since coming over from the Patriots, the division rivals, and even though the Dolphins are still going to be a good competitive team this year, I see them taking a bit of a step back. I don't see them making the playoffs this year. They didn't last year, but I see them being even farther off this year. There's a lot of question marks with this team, and that starts off with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. They took Tua fifth overall last year. He took his time coming back from his hip injury, and I also think they just didn't start him right away because they wanted to let Ryan Fitzpatrick take the reins at first, let the rookie have some time to develop. But after their bye week last year, they put Tua in, and even though Fitzpatrick been playing very well for them, and that's when their season started to sputter out of control. Tua was very inconsistent. They had to keep putting Fitzpatrick in relief of him. He was almost like a relief pitcher. And, Fitzmagic had to work overtime. It wasn't enough to get them into the playoffs. But now Ryan Fitzpatrick is obviously gone. Tua is the unquestioned starter. And there's a lot of question marks because he has the talent. We saw what he did at Alabama, but that hip injury, it's a different sport, but guys like Isaiah Thomas and Johnny Flynn, those hip injuries are not a joke. They can really change your career arc. So my question is Tua's struggles as a rookie more because he's a rookie quarterback and doesn't have the experience reading defenses like a veteran would, or is that injury really changing who he is? Because we saw guys like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. Before Joe Burrow's injury, he was playing very well. Tua was not on the level of those two rookie quarterbacks. But if he is going to break through this year, which he still has the potential to, he's going to have a great offense around him. He's got great receivers. They brought in Will Fuller on a one-year deal to join up with Devontae Parker, who's had two straight really good seasons. Early on in his career, looked like a bit of a bust, but he's really come on the last two seasons. And they drafted to his former Alabama teammate, Jalen Waddle, in the top 10. So as long as those guys stay healthy, especially Will Fuller, we know that's an issue for him. As long as those three stay healthy, he's got three arguably really good receivers to throw to. Throw in tight end Mike Gesicki, who's also really productive. If they can get anything out of Preston Williams, who's had a lot of injury struggles throughout his first two seasons, he'd be another addition to the offense. And then you got Myles Gaskin, who started to break out last year at running back, as well as Savion Ahmad and Malcolm Brown. Good backups for Gaskin in case he gets injured. They've proven themselves to be somewhat productive. Their offensive line is still a little shaky. There's a lot of young guys on their offensive line. You got guys like Jesse Davis. He's probably been there the longest, but they drafted Liam Eichenberg in the second round. Robert Hunt and Solomon Thomas at guard. Matt Skura is actually the only veteran you can really identify coming over from the Ravens this offseason. It's nothing you're writing home about. A lot of people that watch this might not even really recognize those names. It's like Myles Gaskin had these issues last year. It was a wonder that he produced the way he did with that kind of line. And, you saw guys like Jordan Howard struggle to even get 2 yards of carry behind that line after being a productive player throughout most of his career. So with the Dolphins offense, the offensive line and the questions of Tua are concerns for me. And going over the defense, this was a defensive team that was they had a really good defense last year. That was the main reason they were in the playoff contention. I'm worried that they won't be able to be quite as good this year. And first of all, Xavier Howard, who probably should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year, had 10 interceptions, shutting down all kinds of different receivers. He wants out. They're not giving him the contract that he wants. He wants to be paid as the highest cornerback in the league. They're already paying Byron Jones a lot of money, and, rightfully so. He was coming off an all-pro season when they signed him. But Xavier Howard's just a better player. And they're going to need to make cap room for Xavier Howard, or more likely, they're probably going to have to trade him, or he's going to sit out. So I'm not really sure how that situation is going to work out. But without him, they will still have a good secondary. I like Byron Jones more of as a number 2. I like him playing off Xavier Howard more than he is a number 1 guy. But they got other guys, young guys like Nick Needham, Noah Igbenogany. They brought in Jason McCourty, good veteran presence coming over from New England. And I like their safeties as well. Javon Holland's a nice young safety. And Eric Rowe, who since he was on the Patriots for a while, he's starting to break out as a safety in Miami. I like their secondary, but I love it with Xavier Howard. And I'm worried it's not going to be as good as it was last season. Their linebacker core is pretty solid. I like their run defense. Inside linebacker Jerome Baker just signed a long-term extension. He's a good player. They traded Shaq Lawson to Houston for Bernard McKinney. McKinney, he's always been a good tackling linebacker for the Texans. Had an injury-plagued season last year. I think as long as he stays healthy, he'll be a real help for this defense. Emmanuel Ogbah coming off. I don't remember if he made a Pro Bowl, but he had 10 sacks last year. He's a very good pass rusher for the Dolphins. Had a breakout season after bouncing around a little with the Browns and the Chiefs. He seems he might have found a home. Pass rush, they drafted Jalen Phillips in the first round to go with Ogbah, as well as Christian Wilkins on that defensive line. They also are going to have Andrew Van Ginkel, who's a bit of an underrated player, but I think he's starting to make a lot of strides as well. This defense is still going to be good, don't get me wrong, but I'm worried, especially if Xavier Howard doesn't play, that it's not going to be as good as it was last year to keep them in the playoff contention, losing guys like Shaq Lawson, who, yes, Bernard McKinney is an upgrade in the run defense, but unless Jalen Phillips lives up to that first round draft pick immediately, I think Shaq Lawson is going to be a bit of a loss. They also lost Kyle Van Noy, which I didn't really understand that much. They cut him 1 year into, I believe, a 4-year deal, and he went right back to the Patriots. So you're just giving Bill Belichick and the Patriots free players at this point. But overall, yeah, a lot of question marks with this team. They'll definitely compete no matter what, but they're going to need Tua to play like Alabama too if they want to be a playoff team, in my opinion. And I hope he does, because I've got him on my Dynasty Fantasy team, and it would help the fantasy value if we're getting the fantasy football of Parker, of Fuller, of Waddle, all those guys. Because if Tua plays well, their offense does have the potential to be really good, but that's an if. So at this point in time, I can't really endorse a Dolphins playoff berth.